evening, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Headlines, whether you're viewing locally, regionally, or internationally. We're going to be talking sports today, and in fact, more specifically, we'll be looking at the national policy on sports and physical education. That's the main subject matter. But of course, sports so very wide, and we've got so many things to talk about. So we're going to look at as much as possible in this evening's program. Got a couple of gentlemen here with me in the studio this evening, and they are noble as well as handsome gentlemen. And I know they're modest about that, but they are indeed handsome. To my immediate left, I've got Mr. Kerlon Peters, who is the coordinator of sport, and then we've got the permanent secretary, that's Mr. Norman Gilbert in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Right.
Good evening.
Well, I thought about taking off my jacket, Mr. Gilbert, because I realized we've got similar attire.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Peters, just give us a little bit of your background in sports. Tell us about that. I know you're modest about it, but let the viewers know who we're talking to.
Okay. Very strange, I had started a class today, and I started telling them about myself, and I keep smiling.
Yes.
I'm a sports lover. I'm an old South boy, which I'm proud of. Mm-hmm. A nationals man. I carved a medalist in the javelin.
Yes.
I go through that process, and I became a coach. As a matter of fact, at age 18 years, I was certified as one of the youngest level 2 coach in the world. Yeah, I made my name coaching athletes at Selvin Smith through my SAS days.
Right.
And then, everybody say, boy, I know you GBSS. And then I move on to other profession, and I realized the miss and the love for track and field. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in GBSS with Mr. Ashby when they introduced the physical education program in all secondary school. Mm-hmm. I was one of the persons that moved from nursing to the Ministry of Sports. I must say I believe that I grew up in track and field with names as Q&A, James, Joel, Philip, Cut, and all Linda and everybody. I introduced our program there, and I worked there for almost 7 years, mm-hmm. Teaching physical education and then social studies. Today, I must say that I'm quality of sports. I still love sports. I believe sports is what I was born to do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to get the opportunity to be a part of the administration or to be able to manage sports and to give advice and suggestion for the way forward in sports in Grenada.
Yeah.
I think so this is me basically with sports.
P.S. Congratulations to your assignment there in Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture. Just give us a little bit about your background in sport.
Yeah, well, I may not be as decorated as Mr.
We understand.
as Mr. Peters or even yourself may have been, but many may not know that I played sport as well. I played soccer, probably my most predominant sport. Mm-hmm. Cricket to a lesser extent, but soccer has really been my major sport. Track and field. I took part at Intercol National Secondary School Championships, also at football as well. So I played quite a fair level of sport. But also that I spent a significant amount of time in sports administration, particularly through cricket. I would have served and still serving at the St. Patrick's cricket level as president, and I've also served for quite a period of time as well as general secretary to the National Cricket Association, and of course now in the greater administrative role as permanent secretary within the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And my love for sport is unwavering. I love sport. I'm a true sports supporter and administrator, and I try to see what can be done to improve the state of sport. And with my role in the ministry, I believe it's critical that we advance the national policy on sports, and that is what I believe we are championing tonight. But of course, sports is my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you never see me in any other activity, you'll definitely see me in a sporting activity.
Mm-hmm. We've got a great sporting heritage. There's no question about that, whether it's into football or athletics or cricket or netball. It's something natural in our psyche, we should say. And I think that is a great plus and a great positive activity that we have, it's just about enhancing it, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems natural. I mean, to most people of our ethnic background, that sport is something that comes natural to us. We see it more so as play and exercise. Maybe it would be better if we can see the competitive side of sport and also the business side of sport. Unfortunately, we are more into the recreation naturally, but we have very good, strong natural talents in all sporting disciplines. We look at the success of our athletes without having major facilities as in comparison to some of the other countries that are doing very well in terms of the facilities, the level of the coaching. I'm not saying that we don't have qualified coaches, but I'm just saying that there's much more we could have achieved if we had those facilities that the students could have been exposed to very early. But quite naturally, we are blessed with immense natural raw talents that we just need to ensure that they are harnessed and developed so that we can see the real potential of our athletes, whether it's track and field, football, cricket, basketball, badminton, it doesn't matter. There's a natural tendency for us to play sport with balls. I don't know what comes, but if you look at our people, once a ball is involved, we are always there some way creative, that we are able to exercise our skills. So naturally we have great talents. We look at our topography as well, and our athletes, we do a lot of walking in our earlier years, we do a lot of jogging, we have the hills, we have the beach that naturally allows us to become fit and exercise. Maybe we now need to focus a little bit more on the healthy aspect as we go older, but naturally we are filled with talents in Grenada, Carrick, and Petit Martinique.
Yeah, Mr. Gilbert just spoke about coaches and the lack thereof. Isn't that a concern?
Well, I would say, like, if you look at it, we have a lot of qualified coaches around. We just need to get them remotivated and get them back into the system. The courses have been there every year for most of the disciplines, and I think we just need to through the sports policy which you are guiding, to help give them the incentive and the motivation to come back out through the community or village so that I could stimulate the sporting activities that are there. So there is always room for more and for training,
right?
Because you must, to reach at that level, you have to be trained and coach, the right technology and methodology to improve. And I believe with the support and the strengthening and through the sports policy, what we are here to discuss and what we are promoting to establish and implement, I think we will see some of the coaches coming back at the parish level, at the community level, at the village level to help boost the sporting discipline.
Right. Now let's go right into your home. And when I say into your home, I'm referring now to the Ministry of Sport. You have, in fact, recently lost some of your senior personnel, referring to people like Ali de Bellet and Raphael Brathwaite and Raphael Croney, and these were senior gentlemen who really gave quite a lot to the Ministry of Sport. Richie Hughes also. The whole idea of succession planning, these guys must have been missed. Was there anything set in place to replace them, although we know that sometimes it's hard to replace some people? What has the ministry done, though?
Well, Pastor, I mean, obviously there are some people based on their commitment and dedication to the game would be greatly missed. And gentlemen that you so referred to, all are greatly missed because of their contribution to sport. In regard to the succession planning of the ministry, obviously we have some vacancies that we need to fill at the senior level. We have been looking at a number of persons who have submitted applications. We have quite a number of persons who would have gone on to study various aspects of sport, whether it's in Cuba or otherwise. And so we have to look at those talents and to be able to identify persons to fill some of the gaps. But I also want to speak a little bit about the coaches who have been benefiting tremendously from the work of the associations. Right. We see a number of coaches being certified, whether it's through cricket, whether it's through the GFA, whether it's through table tennis. And so we believe that we have a number of persons out there who are qualified to perform these duties. Despite the void that has been left by some of these senior coaches, we are still seeing significant improvement in our athletes' performances, and it demonstrates that the grassroots work is important. While we also have to work at the grassroots, we also recognize that the elite athletes also need some emphasis. and we would have piloted some projects for elite athletes. We see the success of the cricket program, where a number of our elite athletes have had exposure to that level of training, and we also applaud the work of the volcanoes who are here that really added a certain level of professionalism to that program. So while we look at the voids that are left, we believe that there is significant talent around that we can look to bring into the ministry to support the work that we are doing. But importantly, in this sports policy implementation, a lot of the development work really would not lie with the ministry, and the intention is for the ministry to provide policy oversight and provide policy guidance in terms of the direction of government and sports. But we expect the grassroots development work to take place through the parish councils, and that is why we are promoting the parish council structure, so that within every parish there are going to be a number of coaches or different sporting disciplines that would support the development work and would not necessarily rely on the ministry, quote unquote, to provide a coach. The work of the associations and clubs would also be of significance as well, because they also have grassroots program that would run at the community level, so that ministry really would provide a kind of policy oversight to ensure that the policy is implemented in accordance with the implementation plan, and that we are living up to the expectation of the government in terms of where we want to see sport. And it's not just for competitive sport, but the policy also is promoting sports for all, which we are saying from the cradle to the grave there should be sporting activities for all age, whether you are in school, out of school, you're a senior, that there are going to be some activities that would be able to assist you in whatever age group, whether it is for competition, but also we have the non-competitive aspect of the physical development, which is critical. And so ministry, while its emphasis would not necessarily be on developmental coaching, would provide that kind of support for the policy guidance. So while we seek to ensure that we replenish our stock of senior coaches, which is something that we have as a priority, we also believe that with the work and support of associations that we'll be able to achieve our mandate once we have the support of those critical players.
Right, and we obviously will get deeper into the proposed sports policy. So we'll talk much more about that. We've got some time, so we will utilize it.
What I just want to what PSC, we have also make some the sports policy already make allocation for the restructuring of the Ministry of Sports, and we have also implemented one of the policy guidelines with all our persons into the primary schools to help reboost the sporting programs in the primary schools, the competitions, the cricket, the football. So most of our coaches are now in primary schools. So what we are left to do is our senior coaches, which is speak about some vacancy. So the restructuring of the Ministry of Sports will help to complement the national sports policy together with the parish sports council and the developmental program that are expected in the community. So we are getting ourselves organized to give that support in our sense. When I speak of primary school program, I speak about both coaches and PE teachers, and this policy speak of coaches in all secondary schools, physical activity coaches and PE teachers, which is separate. So we're looking forward to that reactivation of all the primary school competition at that level, not only competition, but to give the students that likeness and love for sport and physical activity, so they will go out and live a healthier life. We also look at the component of the parish council, and one of the most important things which I think we don't have missed out, but we speak about the non-competitive activity. So we want that all the parish council will have senior citizen activities on a different days. Maybe it could be dancing, it could be walking. So we want to collaborate all the activities, non-competitive and competitive activities, as we really introduce a solid foundation in sports and sport coaching within the community. Okay. So it's really, really important to us, and I'm excited to be part of the implementation.
All right.
Process.
So let's see what's taking place now in the ministry. I know that recently Grenada has been represented at table tennis. Am I right?
Yes, table tennis.
I think they defeated Barbados.
I didn't follow. I think they make it to the quarterfinals.
Yes.
The two youngsters are on the 13 Caribbean competition. We also have the netballers out too in Jamaica.
Yes, so we'll talk to let's just go back to let's just go back to the table tennis. Well, it's a bit surprising though that they did handle Barbados?
I wouldn't say surprising.
Not surprising.
If you look at what is happening in the ministry in regards to table tennis, we have been producing some good table tennis players.
Right.
Particularly through the table tennis program, we have our senior table tennis coach. We also have Rose as well, who have been really active in terms of table tennis. We just recently we would have had some table tennis players out in a regional tournament as well at junior level. It was good to see that we were able to have outstanding under 13 players who were able to represent us and to, as somebody said, go off defeated Barbados. But it's important that we recognize the grassroots development of table tennis. In fact, just recently, the Table Tennis Association would have had a coaching development session, where they had a number of coaches, including coaches from Carriacou and Petit Martinique, who were also trained ITTF. I think it's level 1 coaching. So we have a number of trained coaches now for table tennis, and the intention is to roll out a community development program. We also have a few boards, and they are identifying some communities where those boards can be placed to re-energize the sport of table tennis. And I think it's good for us. Table tennis has been a very good and active sport for young people to be engaged in, and also seniors as well. But it's important that we look at varying sporting disciplines where there are persons of different talents that can come to fore. So I think I want to congratulate the table tennis coach, the Olympic Committee, the Table Tennis Association for taking the initiative, and also the corporate sponsors, because although ministry would have supported, there are a number of corporate sponsors who would have supported the team on travel to Guyana. So we're really proud of the achievement of those youngsters, and we look forward to seeing more youngsters being produced once we are able to roll out that community development program with the support of ministry and the association.
Yes, and of course we have to give credence to those who had gone before, the predecessors, Matthew Antwine, Gordon Greenwich. Sorry, that's Gordon Briggs. We had Greenwich, I'm just forgetting his first name. He'll crucify me for having forgotten Colin Greenwich. Yeah, one of the outstanding national players that we had, and the name can go on and on. You can't forget Ray Roberts, of course.
Yes.
Bobby Rahman, Wagiti,
yes,
redhead, outstanding.
Cheryl Monroe in St. Mark's.
Right. Alison Green, we can't forget the ladies too. She probably was our most outstanding table tennis player in the history, I would think, Alison Green. So all of these contributed immensely to the development of the sport. And though we had, it lagged a bit for some time, it's nice to know it's in the fray again and things are moving ahead.
We must congratulate the Grenada Table Tennis Association. I think they have been doing a wonderful job. Well, now they have the outreach program going on. PS speak of the boards. They have boards in the position where they are distributing together with programs. They just come out from the level 1 course. So I think they re-energize, and you could see that the support and the performance of the youngsters in the competition. So they really are doing a good job. I think we must congratulate Rose. And she's part of the staff now with the team traveling, and Jason Stanley's class, they all working together with the association, working very hard to make sure that the table tennis get that boost that is needed. We must say thanks to the Chinese embassy. They have donated 15 boats to the associations a month ago to the Olympic Committee. So we are definitely up and going with the table tennis, and you could see the results from the developmental competition right now.
All right, so let's just quickly touch on netball, because we've not gone into the sports policies yet. But you forgot the national team together.
The national,
and ready for World Championship, is that?
They are right now in the World Tournament here in Jamaica, and we see the performance. They have defeated St. Lucia, they have defeated Cayman Island, and there are a couple more games to play, and you have seen the level of the competition. You look at them, look at Jamaica and St. Vincent played, and you could see that. I know it's all good for the sport. I know the Netball Association have been struggling with inter-parish competition, but I believe that will help boost the developmental program from the school. We are also preparing in the ministry to host next week the Sport Shop netball competition, and that will be a feeder to the senior team. So the Sport Shop had been with us over 14-15 years in this sport, and the ladies are excited, Miss Belfon, and them are all excited to come back with the competition. So Thursday will be the opening at the Tantin playing field, and the excitement of teams, is we are really looking forward to the reboost of all our sport for this year. And we have seen the increase in most of the sports that we have started. I don't want to show it too much, but if you look at the turnout of the last 2 cross country we had last couple of Saturdays, the turnout are more than we ever had in the history of our sport. So it shows that these kids are interested. And so now we have to make sure that we structure and organize and coordinate all our competition to the way that everyone will get opportunity to compete.
All right, we're going to be going to a break shortly. We had a 2-year challenging period, and I refer, of course, to the pandemic. It was hard to get a lot of things going, not only in sports, but just about anything in the world, so to speak. What was it like during that period?
Well, it was really tough. As sportsmen, we are accustomed with our routine. We train 3-4 times a week. Mm-hmm. We go out on the beach on a Sunday, so and then we have the competitive activities. Mm-hmm. So it was really down for sports in the sense that some of the freedom we didn't have it as expected. But what we have seen that persons find innovative ways of training and getting ways of competing within that period.
Right. But what did the ministry do during that period?
We have used that time to do a lot of training for our staff. We did a lot of workshop, both practical and theoretical sessions. We prepared the coaches that we have always sent out now into primary schools and some in secondary schools. So we did a lot of development and training program. We did a staff empowerment program, certification, all the associations. Remember, athletics and we had courses that we advised with coaches that we all took, and then so we get ourselves active together with development of our staff and making sure that they are secure and they are motivated to come out. So we all are excited now to go out into the community, into the parish, and execute some of the lessons that we have learned and the new technology and technique we have learned within this form. So we all are excited to go out, but it was a challenge for coaches and athletes within that sense, and I believe that we all are excited that we see the boosting competition. Okay. So right now, what I'm just on street, but the puts policy now we're coming at the right time because it will give us the structure guidelines and that way in which we execute sports. So we build and we start now in a structure way. We're giving each of our stakeholders from the village, from the community, from the parish, that responsibility to go out and identify some of our challenges in sports, identify some of the structure that need to be developed, and identify some of the programs that we can be executed in to get everyone involved from the parish level. Mm-hmm. So it's all good in the sense of that aspect.
So it looks very positive, doesn't it?
It looked well, and we had a couple consultations already. We had at least 4 consultations, and we, from the persons we meet and the persons that come out, you see the excitement to get involved. And I say the parish council is the foundation of the sports, because this parish council will lead the development of sports within the parish from all aspects, to support an identification of talent, to competitive and non-competitive activities, to get the community back out, to introduce the competition and structure the competition within there. And the big one is to give incentive and support for athletes or individuals that demonstrate that ability to go on to world-class talent. So it's really, and so it starts from there, and plus they will have a representative on the national board. So we want to start back in our community. That will help in the social and economical benefit for the whole community. You go out on Sunday and maybe look at a little football match, and you will see little Snow Ice and Forger be selling the little activities. We want to get back the persons into the sporting activities and get the community to build. It's not only through that, but also give support for persons in the community to help grow and to develop into the skill. All
right, just in case you've just joined us, we're talking sport, and with special emphasis, of course, on the national policy on sports and physical education. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll zoom into the national sports policy.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now! We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carrico. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys.
We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Looking for expert in sounds, stage and lighting engineering? Double D Sound, song reinforcement and public address system, rentals for concerts, weddings, meetings, conferences, live shows, parties and crusades. Double D Sound. We also sell all types of musical instruments, accessories and replacement parts. You looking for intercommunication and programmable bell systems, especially for schools? Double D Sound. Looking for amplifiers, speakers, keyboards, matching drums, wind and percussion instruments, transistors and more. We rent stages of any size, concert stage, lighting, party, tents, tables and chairs. Call Double D Sound 405-9685. Hearing and feeling the difference. Double D Sound.
Did you know that the national policy on sports and physical activity has a cradle-to-grave concept? The objectives of the draft policy focuses on inclusiveness of all ages. It includes providing an enabling and non-discriminatory environment that will motivate citizens to actively participate in sports on all levels and across all age groups, to provide athletes from every sporting discipline who demonstrate the ability to become world-class performers with the opportunity to excel at that level, and providing all Grenadians with the opportunity to develop a solid technical foundation in sports. You have an opportunity to make further recommendations for the effectiveness of the national policy on sports and physical activity by attending the reconsultation meetings in your area. Get involved.
Hubbard's is adapting to the times to enhance your shopping convenience with its new online store. You can now shop for appliances, hardware, houseware, builders material, and still enjoy free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at www.hubbardshardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable. Hubbard's. Quality service, affordable prices.
Do more with your new GUT Credit Union Visa debit card, which gives you access to your cash at any Connex or Visa certified ATMs locally and internationally. Make your payments with a tap of your card using the contactless feature and have the freedom to make purchases locally, online, or overseas whenever you travel, anywhere Visa is accepted. Experience the enhanced security fraud protection through the Visa chip technology. If you don't have your new GUT Credit Union Visa International debit card, speak to any one of our representatives today to do more. Your new GUT Credit Union Visa International debit card, a smarter way to access your cash. More smart, more secure.
MegaFest 2022 Gospel Explosion is finally here. Join the youth of the Grenada Conference of Seventh-day Adventists under the green and white tent at Progress Park in St. Andrews from Sunday, October 9th to the 29th at 7 p.m. and continuing nightly for an electrifying evangelistic experience like no other. Come hear the ever-exhilarating Pastor Oliver Scott shatter the kingdom of darkness with thundering messages from the Word of God. If you ever needed the Lord before, we sure do need Him now. Come find hope in the midst of your pain. See you there.
And welcome back. Just in case you've just joined us, we're talking, of course, about our national sports policy and physical activity. We do have, of course, also just to my immediate left, and just in case you've just joined us, Mr. Kerlon Peters, who is the coordinator of sport and the permanent secretary in the said ministry, of course, Mr. Norman Gilbert. Let's go into the sports policy. It's been quite a while in making, P.S. Gilbert, hasn't it? It's been over a decade, am I right?
Yes, in fact, the national policy on sport and physical activity really would have started its genesis way back in 2010 through a series of consultation and actual drafting of the policy. 2010, after the policy has been developed, a lot of talk about its implementation. Of course, back then the sitting administration did not stay in office for too long, and so there was a lull in terms of the implementation and advancement of the policy. Since this administration came back into office, they have been making it very clear that the policy for sport and the advancement of sport really would lie in the implementation of the national policy on sport and physical activity. And right away, we started the process of having a series of consultation around the island. In fact, we started internally first to look at our coaches and our managers, our staff within the ministry, and to get their feel in terms of what the policy is suggesting. Following that, we began a series of consultation with the general public. We have done St. John's, St. Mark, St. Andrew thus far. Tomorrow we are moving into St. Patrick, and on Thursday we go to St. David's, and the schedule continues on also taking care of Karakou and St. George. But interestingly as well, we're going to be also having a stakeholder consultation for the diaspora, and we believe that the diaspora have a significant role to play in terms of the sports policy and its implementation. Additionally, for the very first time, Ministry of Finance in its budget consultative process had engaged a dialogue specific to sport for this upcoming fiscal cycle budget. And so we are looking to ensure as a ministry that the input from the stakeholders really is given some serious consideration as part of this year's budget cycle. So we see tremendous benefit from the implementation of the policy. In fact, there's a lot of momentum now nationally. A number of persons are coming out and willing to contribute to the discussion or the conversation around the policy. There is a need for us to also assess those feedback that we are gathering, and once we are able to do so, we will try to make necessary amendments to policy as we go forward. But I can tell you that government has made it very clear that this policy is going to transform the landscape of sport. When we speak about transformation, we're talking about transformation of the delivery of sport, the administration of sport, and also very importantly to ensure that sport is seen as a vehicle that can help in health and wellness. Okay. And that's why a critical part of the policy speaks about sports for all. Yeah. And the physical activity so referred to in the policy is the non-competitive side of the sport, where we are trying to ensure that our people are kept healthy, that we reduce the incidence of communicable, non-communicable disease, that we also ensure that the things of diabetes and ensuring that our children are healthy. We spoke earlier about the 2-year hiatus from physical education, and we see the impact of that on our people. People put on weight during COVID more than anything else, because of course that they would have lacked that ability to be able to exercise and to play, especially for our children, and free play is important. So the policy also speaks about the need for collaboration within ministries, and I'm very happy that we are twinned with education, because a significant part of the policy implementation has to do with students of school age, and we look at ensuring that there is physical activity in schools. Mr. Peters spoke about the assignment of coaches, so we also want to focus on the development, the talent identification at that level. But also we have other ministries that are critical players and partners. Of course, our ministry is lead ministry in the process, but we have a significant work to do with the Ministry of Infrastructure to ensure that we have support for facilities, not just the playing fields, but all playing facilities, which include the hard courts, basketball courts, of course, the community centers, which will also play a critical role in the process. We also have the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council, Ministry of Health, which are going to be critical players to also ensure the health part of the policy implementation is taken on board. So we see that this policy is critical. When we are through with this consultation process, we will make our necessary reviews, and I can also tell you that the intention is by mid-year or the first quarter of 2023 to start some serious implementation activities in terms of the achievement of the policy. Okay. As Mr. Peters indicated, the parish councils are key to this process, and we want to be able to set them up right. And so we believe that we require some time to consult, to get feedback, and then we'll start the actual implementation.
Right. Now, and I don't really believe in living in the past. And it's something that I was always concerned about. If we're going to function and get the best out of sport, it means that we've got to be structured. And like in anything else, once you're dealing administratively, the more structured you are, is the greater result you will get. That's just a fact. And I was appalled because, in fact, I was at the ministry at the time when the whole process began with the establishing or commencement thereof of a national sports policy, 2010. Mm-hmm. This is 2023. So we're talking about 13 years have gone by, without significantly doing anything. And I'm not talking about what the ministry has been doing, but I'm talking about the structured policy which would give some measure of governance and guidance to sports development in the country. Nothing was really done. I really think 13 years, let's say 12, was quite a lot. Why the lull? Was a lull necessary? Did any of the administration or the former administration realize the importance of it? Why was it shelved? No, it's a question that you probably can't answer.
And I won't attempt to.
And you won't attempt to, and I understand that. But I was appalled and still very much aggrieved that for so long we had a policy written up, at least drafted, so to speak, and could not be implemented. Did we really have commitment to sport? Do we really love sport? Did we want to see the sport progress and develop in the country? That's another question that I wouldn't strive too long on. But one of the objectives of the national sports policy to provide an enabling, non-discriminatory environment which will motivate citizens to become active participants in sports at all levels and across all age groups. No, I love that. The whole idea is to get everybody involved, young, old, and I would suspect even the folk who are handicapped, because I know that Paralympic is also enshrined. This is very important for our way forward in terms of national sports development, and we're all happy to see that it's taken off, and it's taken off with great speed. Consultation is taking place, and I suspect that you've been getting good responses.
Absolutely. In fact, very good response we have gotten from the series of discussions so far. And I just want to mention a point that links to your observation in terms of the objective and that of non-discriminatory sport. Because through the consultation so far, we have heard recommendations for retrofitting of these physical spaces that accommodates persons to ensure that we cater for people who are differently abled, as spectators or people who are interested in coming to get some form of exercise. So when we speak about the competitive part of the sport, the recommendation has been for us to focus on Paralympics and to ensure that we also have athletes who would be able to excel at that level. But there's a wider discussion about access to sporting facilities for people who would love to come to sports for recreation. And when we look at the physical construct of our stadiums or of our pavilions, of our playing fields, they do not adequately allow for people who are differently able to access. So off the bat, through the consultation, we understand that we need to make greater provision for this particular sector of persons. But we also have to make provision for those who would love to come and exercise. And we also have to have development work for those persons who are elites, who are Paralympians and potential Paralympians, to be able to expand in the sport. Now, there's also a talk during the consultation about having the facilities available for non-competitive activity. So it shouldn't be a case where, this is the football season and all the footballers come and, they take up the entire playing field and nobody else cannot get a space, quote unquote, to be able to recreate. And so the policy speaks about the parish council having responsibility for scheduling of activities. And not only do we have some sport that we call seasonal, in fact, we were told that there are no seasonal sport. That sport should be year-round. That football should play throughout the entire year. That cricket should play throughout the entire year, despite, of course, with the weather and the rainy season. But we also expect that there would be some level of scheduling at the community level that would provide for everybody, even the elderly. You want to walk, you want to have a slow jog, that there's a physical space so defined for you to utilize. So it is good that one of the objectives speaks to providing opportunities for all and to ensure that there is no discrimination when it comes to sport and that people would have access to the facilities, whether it's for recreation, entertainment, or otherwise.
I don't think we could be too hard on ourselves, Mr. Peters, from the context. I've got through most of our regional territories doing cricket commentary. To be fair to us, we've got quite a number of playing fields in Grenada, and playing fields that have been pretty well kept. So I think we need to tap ourselves on the back and congratulate us. We've not done badly over the years, have we?
We have not done badly, and I think, as Pierce mentioned, the structure of the sports policy and the parish sports council will have direct relationship to the fields. They'll be in charge of the fields within the parish. So they will expect to get more out of the contractors or the workers. So they will responsible for the whole, besides the developmental program within the parish, the maintenance support of the fields, upgrading and everything. So that will help. That will help a lot in some of our playing surface. If you look at some of the objective of the sports policy, again, you will see social and economic benefit.
Yes.
And this is key, that can be derived from sports. So we are also looking at the monetary aspect of it that the government can gain through sports tourism, through teams returning as we look forward to them again back in the cricket competition and the football, or home for training. So that aspect of it is key. We also look at some of the components of the sports policy. There are 13 key components, and we have a lot of it over the last Olympics and over the last years, about incentives to athletes and financial contribution to athletes that compete at the highest level and win medals. So there will be a transparent framework of incentive program that will be designed and will be aware to everyone that will give compensation for good performance. It also help with the developmental program from athletes going to carry after games and other events to give them that support. It may not always be financial. It could be for school, it could be for nutrition, it could be for physiotherapy support. So that general support to help all the athletes in all the sporting discipline to achieve the goal, to reach the goal by the developmental program, the elite program, will be supported through the national sports policy.
All right. So let me just give you some information here, viewers, in regards to the components of the sports policy. We have national administrative and coordination. We also have governance of federations. That to me is so very important. Infrastructure, facilities and equipment. We talk a little bit about that. Developmental programs for athletes, participatory and competitive activities. Mr. Peters also talked about incentives just briefly. Human resource capacity, financial resources, which was talked about a bit also. Record keeping and archiving. Now, I want to pause there just for a bit. We're going to talk about that so very shortly. The use of prohibited substance, of course, and methods. That is also critical. Conflict resolution, code of ethics. So we've got quite a number.
Yeah, we got 13 components.
13 components there.
And we focus on one of the key focus is developmental program, incentive, human resource capacity, and we also look at the non-competitive aspect of it. So we look at the fundamental of the sport with the development and elite program, lead to elite program. So we based on the primary school program and the community developing that outreach and programs through the parish sports council. So we'll give that support. So we'll start from the foundation, but we'll try to maintain those elite athletes we have. I want to see development to elite athletes to give them the support so that we can continue competing on the winning level, on the international level. So this is key there. Human resource capacity is one that we have to pay great interest to, because without the coaches and the coaching development, we will not see the athletes performing at the best. The incentives I mentioned before, the governance governance and coordination, and also association. It will show how we will interact and what is the level of cooperation we will have with the federations or the associations. Because as we mentioned before, our our staffing will be at its minimum. So we hope to have our developmental program, outreach program, through the community, through the federations. We already collaborated with the Grenada Football Association, the Grenada Cricket Association, the track and field is a part of it. So you want to get all the other sports together so that we can help give that support, so that they will be out in the community, out in the parish, identifying the talent, and when they identify the talent, put them through a process where they can develop and go on to represent us. So we don't just want to hear a team get up in the morning and say, well, we want to go to a national tournament in Jamaica away, and this is the member. We want to make sure that all the programs are at all the different stages have been used, so that the best persons could actually make the team, and then the support, your financial support and contribution for the development of the teams will be given. We look at it also the partnership with the business sectors to give them the incentive to tax concession and other government incentives, so that they could allow the players to go out and train. They could cooperate and join with sponsoring associations for different competitions. So it's a broad setting with the sports, the national sports policy. And as I mentioned, there will be a board of directors with a representative for all the parish council, together with a representative from the Ministry of Education, the Olympic Committee, the coordinator of sports. So that persons will sit on the board of directors. They also have an executive officer that will be appointed together with a secretariat that will govern and execute and run the whole business of the sports policy, as the ministry will sit and supervise and give support to the execution of the policy. Yeah. So then the different parish, each parish will have a sub office in the parish with the secretariat to run and to manage the events, all the events and coordination of sports and developmental program. And they will be given a subvention, annual subvention. They will also allow to prepare for tournaments within the parish, to prepare teams and discipline for a national championship that will be held every 2 years. So it's a whole holistic, it's a ministry for itself. It will be to what is important. As I mentioned, the government is committed to the support. And as PS mentioned, we are going wrong, and right now we consultations, and we are excited with the turnout. The feedback is great. The Prime Minister was on BASCOM program Saturday gone, so he shows and speaks about the sports policy. So he shows we all want to get back into sports and get back strong. But we want to be in a structural manner that it can be efficiency and it could be sustainable.
Good. Now I've just put an asterisk at component number 9, and though I am passionate about everything, absolutely passionate about. Once it comes to sports, I'm very passionate about it. But asterisk number 9 talks about record keeping and archiving. Now, and I'm very concerned because we have done extraordinarily poorly in Grenada in regards to archiving our sporting activities. We've not done very well at all. Now, if you go into the Queen's Park, go to the Queen's Park Oval, the Queen's Park Cricket Club, it's like a museum in there, and they give you all the historicity of what took place, many of the great test matches, some of the great players that grace their presence at the Queen's Park Oval. It's nicely arranged, it is well protected, it's in glass cases. You can't get, I had to get special permission because I'm doing this book about Trinidad and Tobago, which would be published in about a month and a half, and I had to get special permission to get these pictures taken out and carefully put back in the case, that sort of thing. Now you go to our National Cricket Stadium, for example, and you can't see, let's say, a photo that looks at Queen's Park in 1955. The Australians toured here in 1955. They came in 1965 also. We had the New Zealanders who came, the Pakistanis came in 1983, and all of the Grenada's got such rich heritage, and we've got so much to offer, yet we have not been taking particular care and note of our historicity. That concerns me. We should have had a plethora of items, whether it's at the National Stadium or somewhere else, that would showcase what we have done over the years, what we have captured, not only still pictures, but I'm talking video, and we cannot find them. Now, if I'm saying that if careful initiative is taken, it can be garnered. We can gather. I myself have some very unique photos that I will think would fit nicely into such a museum or such a gallery. So it's something I would like you to talk about, yes, because I'm passionate about it, and I'm a little upset too that nothing has been done over all of these years that we have been participating in sport. That is a reason for concern. What have we been doing all of these years? We have not been archiving anything.
Let me try to respond to the question.
Sorry for sounding passionate about that, but I couldn't help it really.
I understand the passion, and I mean, being a commentator for years, when you see talent on field, you want to be able to give stats to support an athlete that is performing.
Thank you.
You speak about cricket, you want to be able to have the statistics of the batsman or the bowler to be able to inform the public who is not even viewing but can build that pictorial representation of what you're trying to describe, and to understand the context of the player in terms of the development. We also have a number of scouts who comes to look at athletes, whether it's in football, cricket, basketball, and they too want data to support their selection. And there are a number of talents that they may identify, and they may ask for records of these athletes. Tell me about athlete A in terms of their performance, distance or time or whatever.
Right.
And so we lack that. I mean, we don't have a central repository where we can go to find data on our athletes, and it's really a call for concern, especially when we want to be able to lift the profile of the game, where you want to be lift and to sell athletes appropriately for them to receive scholarships and for advancement. And so that's one aspect, and then you also have the other aspect of our historical context of the sport that you speak about. We speak about those historical landmarks, the 1955 and 1965 matches in cricket that we can really capture. And so when the sports policy speaks about the recording and archiving, it really speaks about the establishment of a sporting museum that would have exactly what you speak about in Trinidad and Tobago, that demonstrates the history of our sport and our sporting disciplines. You can find out who are our Olympians. In fact, I recently was reading a document that I was looking at in relation to the Grenada Invitational, and that's where I found that we had X amount of Grenadians long list that has gone to different Olympiad to be able to represent us. Now, where else can I find this? I mean, I thank Dexter Mitchell for his research, but we have to be able to find a place where we can have information relative to our sport, our venues, our national heroes and different sporting disciplines, but also to have a database that can support the emerging talents and the persons who are looking for opportunities to be able to sell their skills and their abilities. So we are hoping with this policy that there will be a documentation of twofold. One that would represent our history, but one that also represents the potential athletes that we have, and to also be able to document their achievements. So we can sell our athletes well. We have not been able to sell our athletes very well. When we speak about an athlete who is on the potential of a scholarship, there are many colleges that may be interested in the athlete, but we have to be able to sell the athlete well. So except a scout comes and he sees Tom Jones and he's confident based on what he sees, we don't have no other opportunities really to sell. I cannot find a tape that I can roll back and I can find Sean Lambert's performance from 1994 or 1993, for example. Not much Grenadians may know Sean Lambert. In fact, I saw an image on Facebook only a couple of days ago, Sean Lambert handing over a baton to Justin Gatlin,
yes,
in one of the colleges that they both went to.
Yes.
I mean, how many Grenadians even knew that, for example? So there are a lot of things within the history of sport that we need to properly document. There are some excellent persons around like yourself, Pastor Worme, who I'm sure would be able to contribute to that aspect of the policy, that we can gather the relative information, the history, the pictures, the videos, that we can really build this museum. That will be a walkthrough museum where you can take you to time in chronological order of all of our sporting major achievements. And that would be an important part of the policy, because we have to be able to show our young people that we have these heroes that we can always emulate. When we speak about track and field, for example, we know Kirani as our mainstay in terms of track and field. But to demonstrate by Dexter Mitchell's list that there are these other 10, 20 or whatever it was Olympians who would have represented us at this international level that have absolutely no recognition because they have not won the mighty gold medal.
Right.
But they also represented us very well for a number of years. I mean, Mr. Peters gave his own personal story through Carifta. Do we have a list of all of our Carifta medalists that we can go through the list and say, hey, I didn't know that Pastor Worme would have thrown the discus? But we have to be able to reach to a point where we have that available, and that is what the policy is seeking to do, to ensure that there is the record keeping, the digitalization of sport, that we make sport available online, that we also have the tactical part of sport recorded. I mean, I'm not sure how many tacticians we have. When you finish play your football game, that you would sit with your tactical coach to say, well, here, it's not just that you didn't play well, but I can say to you, these are your areas of weaknesses. You know, you have these inefficiencies, and so I'm giving you a scientific explanation of your performance, and we lack that as well. So there's a lot of room for expansion and development here, and of course, when that time arrives, we will depend on the experts like yourself and others to be able to provide that kind of support. But we want to be able to take sport scientifically, to gather data, and to also represent that historical timeline of our sporting achievement.
I must say that I have intimated to certain individuals, you know, that I'm willing to help in different areas, and that went on deaf ears, I would think. That doesn't make me happy. No, look, it's about national interest. It's about sport. It's about its development. Sometimes we get involved in all sorts of silly things that don't make sense. And the bigger, brighter picture that we should paint, we don't paint them, and that gets me a little bit concerned. So I'm glad that those things are surfacing.
Yes.
And I know that there are a lot of people out there who can contribute. There are a lot of people who would like to give. Before we take a break, we also had the at Spice Basket,
yes,
you know, we had the
cricket
sort of
museum. Yeah.
Maybe there should be some collaboration. All of those things are very important, and I'm sure that they would like to there'd be some collaborative effort if we put that together.
Sure.
So much to talk about, and it excites me really. I really wish we had 3 hours to do that, but let's go to a quick break, and then we'll be right back. We'll give you an opportunity to call in and to express yourself, and we've got 2 gentlemen here who are well equipped and able to answer your questions. We'll be right back.
WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula 1 and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
That you can lower your electricity bill by using energy-saving bulbs? CFLs and LEDs use up to 75% less energy than your traditional bulbs, and they even last 10 to 25 times longer. Over time, consider switching to more energy-efficient CFLs and LEDs, which can help lower your electricity bill. As an individual consumer, I cannot impact global fuel prices. However, I can ease the burden of rising fuel rates by using energy-saving bulbs. What can you do?
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Spare your pocket, spare the earth, always.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment as you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest. Visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
When you need your prescription filled or you require non-prescribed medication, supplements, or all your personal needs, visit Gittins Healthcare at locations on Wall Street, Grandans, Victoria Street, Brandon, and Central Deputy Street, Wall. Gittins Healthcare aims to provide an exceptional personalized pharmacy experience. Additionally, children under 5 and adults 55 years and over will enjoy 10% discount on purchases of $20 and over on prescription medication. Stop settling for less. Visit Gittins Healthcare, where your health is our priority.
And welcome back. Well, this has generated a lot of excitement right in the studio here, because while we're off air, we're talking about so many things, and I'm really happy that this initiative has been taken. It's no longer just something shelved. It's being talked about, and people are getting involved. I'm happy to hear Mr. Peters and PS about the community's involvement, and people seem to be warming up to the whole idea of a sports policy. That makes you feel happy, doesn't it?
It does, you know. When we started with St. John's, you know, besides the in-house consultation with us, because we started with St. John's because we know St. John's had, over the years, they had the parish sports council going with Mr. T. Gavin Taylor Sr. And Abel Patrick and, you know, Anthony Benjamin. That council have been running competition all up to now. They have just concluded a basketball tournament. They give support to the table tennis tournament. So they've been running the tournament without any funds or subvention over the years. So we have the discussion started with them, and then we move on. But the importance to see the community coming out. When we went in St. John's, I said, Mark, sorry, we have some people like George Phillip, and them was past president of the parish sports council, and we see all the old-time players and persons come out to be part of the discussion.
Did we have many youthful minds there too?
There are some youthful minds, and and it was strange. You know, we see for the composition of the parish sports council is clubs, schools, leagues, you know, all the different aspects of the persons within there. So especially in St. John's and the Sweaters on Sunday, they have they have their own association, and they was asking, you know, how they could get involved in the sports council, you know.
Lovely.
So it was really accepted. And as mentioned, maybe you see the interest, you see the minister, whether it is there, and the lead on sports, Mr. Simmons, is there. You could hear the discussion from the Prime Minister level. So the community and the parish are excited to make the change. We asked them to meet next 2 weeks, and they will do a SWOT analysis of the need of the parish. You know, what are the priority? Because not everything will be able to fix right now. Some of the infrastructure, the fields are really damaged bad and need to be rebuilt. Some of the areas, the community center needed to be back to the people, and they need to get it table tennis and the basketball court need repairing. So you want to see how we even look at the human resource there. We want to see what do you need right now, how we can start back and get the community going to get back into sports. And the excitement is there. As PSA will be in Kerlon and Petit Martinique on the 3rd and the 4th of November. And the discussion will also be with us too. The whole team will be there. So it's we get opportunity after the 2 years, 3 years to restart, and we want to do it in a structural manner and before the demands, all the demands, this field need this, and we want to make sure that we have procedure in place so that could address the first thing. We could have a short-term, a long-term, a mid-term, a long-term need, and we could address what we want to make sure that your competition is going. We're happy to see Wagiti start his competition in Victoria Park in Grenville last Saturday, and with the turnout, it's and the teams from Telescope and Lafayette and Mount Horn are part of that competition. It shows the interest, and what the Sports Council will do at the national policy, it will have a biannual national championship in all sports. So the parish Sports Council will help. So you have a team for St. George, St. Andrews, Kerlon, everything, playing every year every 2 years in all sport. So we're giving the financial support and the technical support and other aspects of it to make sure that it happens. So we are excited. We want to rebuild, and we want to rebuild after the break in a structural manner, giving guidelines and support to what is needed to be done, and with the support coming from the parish. So it's not a centralized place. The parish will look at it at the parish Sports Council. We sit as a team and say, this is the way we are approaching our developmental program, our coaching program. We want to know after the students come out to class and school in the afternoon, you have a program they could go through, a developmental program on a Sunday, on a Saturday. You could identify the talent and say, this boy is good. We need to give him the assistance. We need to meet with his parent. We need to find out how we can support them so that he could reach the international level.
Okay.
So this is
Right. Well, we've just gotten news out concerning Grenada's participation, of course, in that tournament, and we have they've just, I'm told, defeated Antigua Barbuda 62-29. I don't know how long ago the game was completed. So game 3, they're on the winning side, 62-29. Our Spice Girls against Antigua Barbuda. Would you folks say congratulations?
Congratulations. Congratulations. Keep up the good work, son. We are excited.
Very nice.
And we know that will boost the tournament that's starting on Thursday.
Of course.
So we're looking at that.
I was just about to say that would motivate the young girls for the secondary school tournament, because I just want to make one comment on netball though, because Mr. Peter spoke about earlier not having the parish tournament. Netball has been one sport that, despite not having the parish tournament, has been doing well. And so it means that there is something happening in netball, either at the secondary school level, or there are few parishes like St. George that has an organized tournament. Then we also had the intersector netball, which is something that we also need to revisit, because we obviously need to be.
It created quite a bit of excitement.
It was a huge tournament,
there were a couple of guys who played,
of course,
in the tournament.
And in fact, we just had a male team that returned from overseas travel as well.
Yes, I learned about that.
In that male tournament. So netball is going in the right direction, and I want to congratulate the team. Of course, they are doing very well to date, and we want to encourage them to continue to do well so they can qualify.
Well, let me just. I didn't think I would ask you this with the male team's participation and coming back. Don't you think that it's going to go a little further? Now, in the earlier days, we didn't hear much about women's involvement in cricket, and then we got football now. So when we come to sporting activities, anything that the men are involved in, the women are getting involved. So I think it's about time that we got some male playing netball.
It's good to see the men in netball. I mean, the sport needs to grow, of course, and they've been asking us, to support them so that they can grow the sport.
Right.
I see transition from basketball to netball for males, but of course we need to give more support to expanding the male netball, and I think that the team has done well. In fact, I believe that they placed third. I think it was in that regional tournament.
In the Americas tournament.
They would have done well. And of course we're looking for them to be able to expand and to grow the sport. But we expect that the grassroots program, and we really want associations to have its own grassroots development programs. There are few associations now that are able to do so, maybe because of finances or otherwise, but there is a greater need for more associations to invest in the grassroots program to support and to complement the ministry. Stakeholders and the business sector have a critical role to play as well, because it's one of the complaints that the associations have been having, not being able to meet the financial commitment, and so they rely heavily on government to fund and to support their activities. And so we want to call out the business community, because they too have a great stake in terms of our growth and development as a nation. And so we want them to give greater support to associations for grassroots program. We see it in cricket and we see it in football, and so also in track and field. But we could see also expansion in other sporting disciplines, that private sector companies would be more willing to come forward and to support those clubs and those federations that are doing well, but are really looking for some financial support that would help to grow the sport.
What about facilities? You're happy about facilities, or much room for improvement?
There is a call nationally through the consultation for an appropriate indoor facility for multiple disciplinary sport. And it's something that the ministry has given some serious consideration to, based on our conversations, that there is a need for an appropriate facility to house multiple sport. We've met with all associations. We've heard the cry from basketball, from volleyball, from tennis, badminton, all looking for a space that can provide them with the opportunity for indoor games, because they also see the need to support the sport tourism. And they believe that whilst we are able to bring the cricket teams to play from Europe and so on, that they could afford to bring basketball teams and table tennis teams. And the Sparklers team spoke about how they would have brought teams from the region before to play. And so there is a need for an appropriate sporting facility indoor that can accommodate multiple sport. Ministry has also given a commitment to support aquatic sports. And so the whole issue of ensuring that there is an appropriate swimming pool for our swimmers. We see what the swimmers have been doing for the past few years in terms of their achievement with just a 25-meter pool. And so we believe that if you invest in a larger pool and more amenities to support the pool, that they would perform a lot more. So in regards to facilities, we have some excellent playing surfaces, cricket, football, etc. We have some basketball courts that need some resurfacing. Generally, I think we are doing well in terms of the facility, but there is a call for a national indoor facility, and there is a call for some upgrade to some of the facilities. We speak about lighting of the cricket stadium to support more night matches. That needs to also develop. Our rural fields, also there are some that we are hoping we can expand. There is a call for a 400-meter surface in St. Patrick's. That is really lacking. There isn't one, and so we also have to look at the expansion of facilities to provide that kind of services. But nationally, I would say 80% of our facilities are of good standing, of course in need for continuous upgrade, but the call has been for an indoor facility ready to help and to support those sports that are, can be held indoors.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you a quick question, but I won't want to jump away from netball. I'll just go back to that. You've talked about the possible lighting of the cricket facilities at the National Stadium. I think quite ironically, you look at Bushes, you look at Lassages, and all these other facilities, they're being lit. And people are saying, well, the national one has not been lit, and we're staff a night cricket in Grenada. Yeah. What's the prospects?
Yeah, I think the prospects are great. In fact, I can say that the ministry has been focusing a lot on lighting those smaller community fields. We have seen multiple fields lit throughout maybe the last year and a half, and obviously the National Stadium is a reason for concern. We have seen lighting now in Lassages to support the development of sport there, and there is a commitment to ensure that the National Stadium is lit. Ministry has also gone ahead to sign an arrangement with the Chinese for refurbishment of the National Cricket Stadium, which we expect to start very soon and would take probably about 18 months to completion. And that will be a major project.
Which the lighting part of that?
The lighting
signing?
would follow, but initially what we are going to be seeing is refurbishment, the sitting bowl, repainting, elevators,
screens,
cameras, 2 new replaced screens, and
Very
electronic scoreboard to ensure that the alarm system, the camera system is upgraded, the toilet facilities, general metal works around the entire stadium. So it's major works, and that will be followed by the lighting of the playing field, which we believe would really crown the facility as one of the top class facilities. I mean, we understand that the stadium is second to none, but the lighting is really something that has been outstanding for many a year. I know that a number of persons, even through the consultation, spoke about, well, they've heard this in this budget before and that budget before, so they have no confidence. But I believe that there are many things that we are trying to do. We all may not be able to achieve all at the same time, but we do understand the importance of the lighting of the facility, and we expect that once we are complete with the contractual work to be done by the People's Republic of China, that the next movement would be able to ensure that we light the National Cricket Stadium.
All right. So we've just been talking about netball, and we talk about Grenada doing very well. I remember the glory days, of course, back in the 80s, 70s. We had some great players, and before that, we had some very outstanding players who went before and shown their important lights. It's interesting, you know. I did speak with the late Margaret Dowd. That name you must know. Margaret
Yes, of
Dowd,
course.
And she was one of the outstanding netball players and also officials here in Grenada. And you know where the main netball court was?
Well, I don't want to guess, but I know that there is something in River Road.
Well, no, it was the Botanic Gardens. Right
well,
at the shed. That's where they played the netballs, the netball in the early days. And she reminisced about it, and I sat quite fascinated that she was revealing those sort of things, and many of them ended up with sore knees and ankles because they played with
the surface.
Surface, and of course the footwear. Now it's much more padded. You've got shoes appropriate for the sport. So we really hope that the girls, the Spice Girls, will go from strength to strength.
Of course,
we can be proud about them.
And we'll be there to support them and continue them with all the process, you know, and the programs to make sure that, as I say, we continue with the netball from the primary, from the secondary school. We'll have tournaments with the persons in the primary school, so we will rebuild and stronger. So that's the process why the structure is there. Or the persons in primary schools, so we should have all the tournaments starting from there, so that we get better players.
Okay, so we want to keep our promise, and we would open up the line, so just in case you want to call us and shoot any related questions, not necessarily to me, they're the gurus, so please give us a call, 440-1252, and whether you've got a comment or a question, you're free to do that now. I think we've got our first caller. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Yes, great. Good evening, Mr. Worme.
Good evening.
And good evening to you.
Citizen Rollo.
Listen, I feel good. I must indeed say, hearing these utterances from these sports officials. Listen, I want to make two observations and a final question. Now, first of all, I want to remind these gentlemen that the verbal structure would have plus the past participle does not tell you what happened. I want you all to be careful about it. Think about it. When you tell me that you would have done something, you didn't do it. And it's a serious mistake we're making in our communication, and we're giving false information. It may seem simple, but it is not. I hope that you would listen to me and give serious consideration to the use of that structure. It has its purpose. It expresses an unreal and imaginary situation. Something would have happened if something else had happened. Be careful. Thank you very much for...
Okay, caller, thanks very much, and thanks for your observation. We appreciate it so very much. We just want to look at 611, which deals with the prohibition of substances. We're going to talk about that. We've got another call on the line. Caller, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I have been listening to your program, and what I noticed, I've not been really hearing anything about lawn tennis, which is part of sports in Grenada. I have not seen over the years any development in that area either. We have tennis courts in Grenada that need to be developed. We have tennis courts that need, children that's playing tennis. They've been traveling and nothing much from the Ministry of Sports when it comes to tennis. I would want to know if there is any plan for tennis players, young tennis players in Grenada, and even those that are overseas who are playing sports. I'm not even hearing anything about them. So I want to know if there is any plans for tennis in Grenada. Thank you so much.
And of course, for people who don't necessarily want to play competitively, but just want to go and take the racket and play a bit of lawn tennis. Your
but I think, as you said, a lot of people play tennis. When you pass the Tantin area on the weekends, quite a lot of persons on the court, just non-competitive sport. But as a ministry, as indicated earlier, we would have had staff who would have left, and one of our senior coaches for lawn tennis, Brother Richie, who has been with the ministry for many years, would have since retired, and the void has not yet been filled. And so we understand as a ministry that when I speak earlier about building the capacity of the senior coaches and also ensuring that we have the right coaching stock, lawn tennis is one of the areas that we have a deficiency in that we obviously need to address. So I do want to commend the caller for the observation. But we have seen a number of persons of contributing to lawn tennis, and I want to make particular reference to Karakou. And I know PS Karakou speaks a lot of that, quite often when we speak. Now, Karakou has had persons who would have migrated, would have played tennis overseas, and who would have returned to Karakou and who would have invested in the sport by their willingness to volunteer to support the development of lawn tennis. And when we speak about Grenada's participation in the lawn tennis championship not too long ago, probably about 3 months ago, it was persons from Karakou actually who came out as persons who were champions, and they really came out because of the coach who returned from overseas and who had time on his hands and was able to, pass on. And so whilst we may not as a ministry have a dedicated coach, we also call on the general public, people in the diaspora, returning nationals who have the skill to be able to give back and to contribute. And hence the reason for the importance of the parish councils when the sports policy is set up, that those persons who return from overseas and who have migrated and are home and are now sitting there on the luxury of all the rackets and the balls and the skill set that they are able to transfer, to go to the court on evening time and to be able to support the development of the sport by assisting young people. So yes, caller, as a ministry, we recognize that we have to do something about the deficiency in terms of the senior coach for lawn tennis. But of course, we also encourage persons, to play lawn tennis, for those non-physical, those non-competitive activities that, we have the lawn tennis courts out, we have throughout the entire island actually, where persons can go out and play. So we want to encourage persons to use the courts.
Okay, we've got a call on the line. Let's go across to the caller. Good evening, caller. Thanks for holding.
Yes, good evening. I have 2 questions. Firstly,
go right ahead.
The policy, obviously sports policy is a reflection of government's own vision for sports in Grenada. And things do change from time to time, and we have to adapt, just like to find out, what period are we undertaking to have a review of the policy going forward. And secondly, the aspect of stakeholders. I imagine that we oftentimes focus on so many different stakeholders that we forget the most, or one of the most important one, which is the fans themselves. And we sometimes put it in the context of, well, the fans are parents, guardians, and so on, and will be there supporting and encouraging their own. And to an extent, we are all fans if we are participating too. But we ought to have some clear objectives as to what we want out of the fans' involvement, those that will be actually spending and attending to some of these events that our sportsmen and women will be on show performing. Those would be my 2 questions.
Yes.
I think this is key, and I want to thank the caller for the question and the comment, because if you look at some of the consultation, I must say that the fan aspect of it haven't been mentioned. So I think this is one of what the ideas we have to take in. This is the objective of the consultation, to get ideas from the public about what should be implemented and at what level. So I think the fan aspect of it is one that we have to take consideration for implementation and look at how they contribute to the holistic approach and the execution of the policy. I must say that looking at some of the aspects of the consultation, we invited everyone in the sense to come out and be part of it, and with that knowledge we'll be able to have because we have to buy into it. Basically we have to go there and make the understanding importance of all aspect of it, because with the upgrading of playing fields and upgrading of our facility, it will help lead to fans more satisfying and accommodative area. So we definitely will take all of the comment into consideration for the final drafting. We're looking also to finalize all the consultation by the middle of November, and by early next year we should be able to implement other part of the sports policy.
Okay.
We must get the parish council going. They are the first ones to be implemented in setting up the office, setting up the secretariat, and then we can go further with the other aspect of the implementation.
Great. We've got a call on the line. Caller, thanks for holding. Good evening.
Good night to you, Mr. Worme, and to the two gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let me say, Mr. Worme, this is about the first time that I'm sort of disappointed with you and the other two hosts. To know that so much years have been lapped on the sports policy, and you all cannot tell us what is the real reason why our sports policy was not in place. I'm somewhat not feeling happy over that. Too long we're hearing that, and to me, what happened is that when a government change, policies change too fast. And I'm not feeling happy over that these things have been lingering around for the longest time. NMP, and we don't see a sport policy. And that should be in place long. And you all gentlemen there have to take some of the blame.
Thank you, caller. But I hope you were listening earlier on when I expressed my disappointment in the fact that it took so long to have it implemented. So you probably came on late onto the program. The other thing is that, quite frankly, I'm not prepared to live in the past. The issue is that it's on the road, it's on the ball, and it's happening. And let's give credence to that, and the people who are involved in ensuring that it's happening. Congrats and full credit to them. And that's the most I would say about that. We've got another caller. Good evening. Caller, good evening.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question, please, Mr. Worme, sir. Did you cut me off a while ago, Mr.
No, we thought that you were through with your presentation, so I don't think you were cut off per se. Okay, so just I need to chime in here, because we talked about the lawn tennis courts and all that. We've got one in Grandhands, and I know that there are a lot of people who have been speaking about it. Could something be done with it? Don't know if it needs resurfacing or repainting, as the case may be. But a lot of people used to go there back then and knock the ball around recreationally, non-competitive, and maybe that's something, PS, that we could just take a little peek into and see the possibilities. And we would want to also take the opportunity to give great commendation for those who've gone before in regards to lawn tennis. Leonard Hughes, Miriam Adams, of course Richie Hughes, Bernadette Russell, the Albert Lamotte, and Mrs. Findlay. She was a national player too. A lot of people are not aware of that national player also. We can't forget Selma Phillip. Yeah. She represented Grenada with distinction for so many years, and the list can go on, and folk, I don't want to spend the whole time, but I love to give recognition to people who have served and have served very, very well. well.
There are some sports that we really have to start. We have to give some attention, and we just mentioned one day the tennis. I think the volleyball is 1-2 that we have seen over the period. Although we have a team that is traveling now, but we have seen the volleyball through the loss of Nan too from the ministry, Nan and Buff. Yeah, we have seen that's an area too that we need to that are vacant, that we need to reorganize, and the sports council will help that to the parish. So we need to get some of the other sports, the boxing, and we have seen the contribution of Sebastian and Mick chose Kariku and to Grenada with the boxing, and we really need, a matter of fact, the ministry have invested in 2 portable boxing ring that we need to assemble now and distribute it to Kariku and leave one here so that we can go on and reintroduce these sports. So there are sports that we really over the years that have not gotten that support so much, and we really want to start back by reboosting and rebuilding them from.
Okay, we do have a call on the line. Caller, good evening. Welcome.
Hi, good evening to you, to Worme, and to your panel. I have not listened to everything, and I cannot say no much about what is in the sports policy, but I'm encouraged to hear mention made of non-competitive sporting activities, because sometimes we get the sense that people feel that competition really makes sports person, and I beg to differ. Not even coaching actually makes sports people. Playing sports is what really gives you that, that wide pool of persons from whom you can now select and train. There was a time, for instance, in the case of cricket, where everybody played cricket in Grenada. Men, women, and children. To go to the countries that produce a lot of cricketers, like India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka and these places, everybody plays. But we have a situation now in Grenada, I'm not sure the policy addresses that, and that's where the schools also come in. It seems as though you depend on someone coming once a week or once a fortnight as a coach, and to try to identify and train people to become sports persons. I think we have to provide facilities, and there's mention made about the club level and the communities and so, where we encourage people to just play. I think I heard you, Mr. Worme, mention about taking a racket and just knocking the ball here. And that's what you need to do. Encourage them to play the sport, and not having that feeling that unless you have people to coach them, that it would not develop. Or unless you have competition. These are things that come after. But we have to get people being physical, getting people playing, and then we'll have that mass from whom you can develop the top athletes and those you want to take further up. That's just my contribution to this.
Great contribution. So thank you so very much. We appreciate that so very much. And I think we emphasize it quite a lot. Yeah. Everybody getting involved in it, everybody participating, and it's pleasurable, and it is physical too.
So that's what the key for the primary school and the secondary school physical education program, coaching program, to give you. There's not more at that level. You look at, the fundamental of the sport. You look at introducing them to the fun and games activity, right? And then they develop that coordination and the biomotor that is needed, and they start developing a likeness for a particular sport. So it's a solid contribution, and it's something that we take very seriously, and we're working on develop from the primary school level and the community level, and then from there you see that guy have a sharp eye, or that guy have a quick arm, and then you put him to a little more specific. And, so we look at one of the models we look at is the Canadian long-term developmental plan for sports. You also have England, Africa, and it shows what activities that must be executed from birth to right at different all age group, from the beginners to the intermediate, so the activities suit. So we try to coordinate or to adopt that activities through our physical education program. And I must say we have some persons from here that well qualified from the Cuba training system. We speak about Natalie Wages, we speak about Dr. Mario Christopher in the physiotherapy department, assist and make sure that contribution to our sports happen, and many others that are in other primary schools and secondary schools that give that support. One of the keys to help promote and to help we energize our persons, maybe through, some people do like their through incentives, or maybe through, some of the years they get them back into playing that active role into the development and the contribution of sports in a sustainable way. And we're hoping the Parish Sports Council and the National Sports Policy will be that driving engine to help get us back there and get that support to rebuilding and foster our community level. And then see this support and also the contribution at all aspects of it. It could be through social, it could be through economics, it could be through opportunities, I mentioned incentives, it could be through, that we rebuild it and rebuild better for sustainable growth in sports. So it's very, very interesting to see that happen.
PSI, you may realize by now I'm pretty big on it, and there are a lot of people who've gone before, and they have contributed quite immensely, and somehow they go into oblivion. We forget them. We forget there was ever anybody called Zagara Cyrus, anybody called Joe Cafe Bull Williams. They just seem to go off the map, off the radar. I think that's a shame. We should pay respect to those who have gone before, who have given great contribution to the various sporting, areas, and let us know that these people really contributed. Now let's take, for example, Queen's Park, and where we had someone who was a curator of the ground for 50 years, Septimus Lacrette. Was there any consideration, for example, rather than saying the River Road End, the Septimus Lacrette End, who lived at River Road and gave 50 years of his life, and also a former national footballer and also cricketer too. These are important things that we really need to do.
And Brother Omas, as we said before, this will be captured in the archiving aspect of the policy. But also, I also want to mention the role of associations as well in the recognition of those outstanding sporting personalities. I mean, you look at the Olympic Committee that normally would have the National Sports Awards. And it may be relevant to ensure that every year we highlight a lifetime achievement award for somebody dedicated to sport. Not just an athlete, but we also have administrators, we have officials, we have people who are dedicated commentators like yourself. Do we want to wait until you pass on to get your flowers, Pastor Holmes?
God forbid.
I'm sure it's important that we recognize that, we need to recognize people in sport. The top fan, Antigua would have recognized what's his name, Gravy in cricket.
Oh yeah,
right? So he has been a top fan and supporter that promotes Antigua, that sells the image of Antigua. And so we need to also recognize that there are a number of persons who have contributed to the sport. Maybe not as active players, it could be administrators, officials, but associations have a responsibility as well to also, reach out and to recognize. But under the sports policy, we expect that a particular activity would be able to fill the void to have a number of our persons so recognized.
Well, in one of our consultations, somebody bring up having a Spice Award, every year, and maybe we could start with it at the parish level as Parish Sports Council, because I think we really need to show, as you mentioned, I could see you're very passionate about it, the past players and athletes and at all levels. I think we may need to have to do some form of awarding some persons as quickly as possible, because we have agreed. If we want to promote what we are doing there in the sports policy, I want to get some people. We really have to get some persons back motivated to come out and volunteer and make the support. So we may have to develop a new award for the parish, maybe a Spice Award, and so some appreciation for the support that have been given to sports over the period. If you listen to some of the programs and look at some of the past athletes and listen to the flight over the years to get to the top where they are, and you realize that we really needed to do more as a people, as a country, to show appreciation and to show that they really help us to promote Grenada. Because we look at it, for instance, when you look at if you go to pay for some of the promotion on ESPN and on any other, we cannot pay for that, and the names are being called, and you have been seeing them holding up the Grenada flags to the highest level, and then some of them are representing us with all pride and glory. So we must maybe we start at the parish, at the community. Maybe that could be one of the feedback from one of the parish consultation we have and the meeting they have. Let's see, so it could be the first aspect of the establishment is to award persons within the parish that give that support,
right?
And then we could take it forward from this, so that that feedback could come from one of the parish.
On the subject of award, I'm told that Anderson Peters among the list,
at least for the world
outstanding. Do we have other Caribbean athletes, or he might be the only one?
He's the only Caribbean.
Now this is remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the only athlete in the world. You got.
Remember, this year he had the fifth farthest show in the world.
Yes.
And a couple of national record and international Caribbean record. Great. So you really have done us well over the years. You look at Lyndon Victor. It's a real example of what a full sportsmanship should be,
right?
And also perseverance to make sure that you keep at your goal, and he's improving at this age. And I could look to see him in Japan next Olympics. Even his brother Lyndon Kurt. And we're excited to see. And there are a number of athletes that is competing very well. We could speak about the cricketers, and I see Fletcher still have the top score in. We are still there and still relevant in the performance in all aspects of it. So we not only want me to ask what about culture and what about we have to look at it in a open manner and see what ways and what policy we can develop even for the culture policy, so that I know the culture men will speak about it and they will have the means of developing the way forward and keeping the craft sustainable. So it's good, and it's all leading to a correct place. So we need to get our persons out. We need to inform. We need to come out of the consultation and make it support so that it can be taken into the national policy and give you support.
Okay. Well, we don't have a lot of time remaining, but let's just talk about the anti-doping facilities and testing that we may have to think about developing in Grenada. Is that pertinent?
That's critical. In fact, only last week, Minister and myself would have participated in the World Anti-Doping regional meeting. And quite clearly, we have a situation around the world where we have to look at the situation with athletes and performance-enhancing drugs. And so even here locally, we have to ensure there's a mechanism for testing, which is critical. We have a number of persons who have been exposed. There was some training done maybe last year before, Mr. Peters, I stand to be corrected here, where Dr. Maria Christopher would have led. We look at sports medicine and the importance of sports medicine, but also critical is ensuring that we have athletes who are performing clean. We speak about ensuring that there is genuine performances that would highlight the talents of our people that are not really injected by performing enhancement substances. And so I don't believe it's a situation where we are at a risk, really, because it's not something that is very pertinent to our sportsmen and women.
Okay.
But we understand that especially those international athletes who would go through more rigor for testing, that they have to be prepared to meet the commitments. And you would also understand and appreciate that not reporting for a test is as guilty as testing positive.
That's correct.
And we have seen the implication for athletes, Grenadian athletes as well, and we have just seen the possible implication for one of the West Indies cricketers who would have missed some testing. We saw a number of persons have been banned for years, 1 year or 2 years, because they would have missed testing. So whilst our athletes may not be guilty in terms of the intake of those substances, they also have a responsibility to ensure that they meet the commitment of testing and to ensure that they are ready and always prepared to be tested. And that is important. And we want to ensure that we have clean sport, but anti-doping is something that we have to give serious consideration to locally. We have a few persons who would have been driving that locally. Dr. Mario, Dr. Johnson also have been leading the cause. And so we need to establish maybe a local organization that would support the testing of our athletes as required by the international standards.
Mr. Peters,
well, I was saying we have a local anti-doping committee led by Dr. Sonia Johnson together with Joel Johnson. We also have some consultation now with under the Ministry of Education, where we go to sensitize the public and in the schools and the athletes on the don'ts and everything of the whole of the anti-doping, give them the information as related to that. We have a couple of meetings. I've been in a couple of meetings also. So it's an ongoing process. We thought we make contribution. We have to sign to our annual anti-doping committee, the whole anti-doping committee. We have to pay a subscription fee so that we can host an event, and events can also be registered internationally. So that is very important, that we must fulfill that commitment with them. And we have regular meetings. We're preparing now for our next meeting with the whole anti-doping, where we right now we should be doing some promotion. So you'll see we come along and do some promotion on the anti-doping committee. Because the athletes, as we mentioned, if you like Anderson is here and you have to be tested at home, he must know all what he should take and what he cannot take and what he should do and cannot do, and he have to be put for his test when it's called upon. So instead of somebody coming from Trinidad to do it, they could have that body here, well led by Dr. Sonia Johnson, could take up that testing and get it done.
Okay, it's ironic though, because we're talking about testing and making sure that athletes are kept clean as possible. There has been quite a bit of push in recent times for the legalization of marijuana, and is that going to be a challenging thing? And I'm not suggesting we should go deep into it. Then it will call, obviously, for athletes to be very disciplined and make sure that they do not tamper with it. Is it considered as one of those illegal drugs when it comes to athletics?
Yes, it considers.
Right. But if it's done for recreational purposes and also for commercial purposes, and that's in the basket, I'm told it's in the making, and more likely than not, there will be a great push for legalizing it. Won't it also be a great challenge now for sporting associations and the Ministry of Sport as a whole to ensure that, hey, listen, you got to be careful, it's legalized, but you got to be careful, you got to be disciplined.
Of course, I mean, we have to support our athletes and to encourage our athletes to do the right thing. I mean, as Mr. Peters used the example of Anderson, who is here and maybe called upon SNAP to do a test, and so our athletes need to understand that at any moment they can be tested, especially those international athletes, and you want to be able to be free from those substances. I mean, one can speak about a great American swimmer who I shall not name, who have won many Olympic medals, who is a consumer of the drug. But I'm just saying that, you know, when we look at the legalization that is expected, we want to promote more the economic side, and that is what you want to encourage. Of course, you would have people who would feel that it's free to use, but we're talking about commercialization, we're talking about being able to have the economic benefits, more so than having our athletes just feel it's free and we can proceed to consume. But athletes need to recognize that they have a responsibility for their own health and wellness. I mean, as administrators, coaches, you provide advice and guidance. We don't have much athletic counseling, quote unquote, available, but coaches provide all the support that they can, morally, socially, and otherwise. And so we expect that even if that is the case, athletes would remain on track and remain positive as much as possible.
Okay, well, we're coming up just to the closing part of our program, but I think we've got a little bit of a highlight, maybe about 40-45 seconds in regards to our girls, the Spice Girls against the Antilles. And so let's take in a little bit of that, and then we'll have our quick wrap up.
Thank you.
Lovely ball. Great vision. And Kato in that sweet zone. If they can maintain their 15 goals per quarter, that will take them to their highest tally of the tournament. Lovely lob inside. 26-7, already 11 goals scored in this quarter. Lovely take by Amy Lake, and sinks the shot, and that will be critical at the back end of the tournament as well. When lovely move, and Amy Lake has a chance. She has grown into the match. Fitz working overtime.
Oh yes, she is, and she's been aggressive, very aggressive.
Grenada hit 60.
Yes, and welcome back. And it's interesting that the commentator suggesting that they've been going at 15 per quarter, which is very, very good. Our shooters are on the ball and they're doing a great job. We're all proud of them.
Yes. To me. Against opponent as that in the national colors, and it's just something that you cannot pay for.
Kato is still around. Wonderful lady she is. Let's have our closing remarks first from you, Mr. Peters, and then go P.S. Gilbert.
Well, I want to say thank you for having us, and for say thanks to all the persons that come out in the consultation so far. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to be at MacDonald College in St. Patrick, and then we'll move the Thursday to St. David's. I'm looking forward to the continuous discussion on the sports policy and to get the contribution. We soon will know about the national desk that is already been established, so that we could start working at it. We're looking for a sustainability framework in sports, where the decision making can come from the community and from the parish, and we can give the support that is so needed to all our athletes, spectators, supporters, referees, everyone that participate, manage teams. They can get that support and reward for representing us and representing us well.
Great. Yeah, P.S.
Again, thanks very much for hosting us. It has been a pleasure. The ministry continues its drive to ensure that we can have public feedback on the national policy on sports and physical activity. We encourage our stakeholders to come out. We also want to compliment our stakeholders who have been supporting the development of sport. Our stakeholders have really come on board to ensure that we can have sport continued, despite the fact that government may have limited resources. We also want to say special thanks to the Grenadians in the diaspora who have contributed, and I want to personally commend Mr. Michael Bascom for his support. And we will be having a separate consultation for Grenadians in the diaspora who are willing to contribute to the process. So we want to build from the community, as Mr. Peters would have indicated. We want to build from the parishes, and we want to ensure that the policy is solid in terms of its development and its base. And we believe that once we can have the support and commitment of all Grenadians, that we'll be able to implement a policy that will affect all Grenadians and improve our sporting abilities, but also our health and wellness, which is critical for our ministry as well, to ensure that we have a wealthy nation. And as I said before, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation indeed. So I want to thank you and to encourage persons to come out to the consultations. We have a few more to go, and we'd love to have the feedback. Even if you are not able to join in the consultations, you can also shoot us at the ministry with a call or an email with your feedback and comments, and I'm sure that we'll be able to pull whatever comments you would have shared so that we can move for the overall advancement of the policy. So it's good that we have been able to have some very, very positive feedback, and I want to thank all those who have supported thus far, but the drive continues to ensure that we can have more contributions.
We want to say thanks to our two gentlemen who came from the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture and briefed us particularly about the sports policy and other very important information as to what's taking place in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. We want to thank those of you who called in and gave your comments and asked questions, as the case may be. We appreciate that so very much. Just to give you a little idea concerning next week, don't forget, that's God's willing. Don't forget, of course, important events back then, the demise of the revolution, intervention, invasion, whatever way you want to call it. So we'll be talking a little bit about that on our next presentation of Beyond the Headlines. Thank you very much for joining. Have a very good evening, and please have a very good night. Until then, Stephenson, Worme.